In the studio is John Daniels, a Democrat running for alderman in the city of Frederick, and we want to welcome you. And Blaine apologizes for not being here, but he had the opportunity to have a little time off, and so he took it before they start the ratings game, and he won't leave Grove Hill Road the whole time. So tell us, this would be kind of like Blaine would ask you, tell us who you are, and how did you get to Frederick, and how long you've been here, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, first, I'd like to say thanks, Anita, for doing this interview, and I would say thanks to Blaine for the invitation. I am John Daniels, and I'm running for alderman, and I got to Frederick kind of by accident. My wife and I were looking for a place to call home. We came to Frederick, and we haven't left. A little bit about my past. I'm a retired military person. I spent 23 years in the Navy, retiring as a Master Chief. I was a member of a combat air crew for 23 years. And as, of course, in the military, as you gain rank and experience, your job assignments become more in-depth and more varied, as did mine. I spent time in the recruiting command, building relationships with news people and educators, community leaders. I spent time in the aircraft maintenance program, and I spent time in special projects at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. And my last job, which was probably my favorite job, was building exercises, aviation exercises, to coordinate with South American governments.
What does that mean?
We did coordinated operations with some of the small South American companies, like Uruguay, do coordinated flight operations.
And what was the purpose of that, just to protect the countries? Or
Actually, it's just to give them some insight as to what we do, how we do our tactical flights.
So it's kind of like a training exercise?
It's a training program, absolutely.
And you like that, huh?
Oh, I loved it. It was
did
great.
You?
Yeah.
Cool. Now, did you live there, or were you here? Or
Actually, I lived in Costa Rica during that exercise in San Jose, Costa Rica.
Oh, so that sounds like a really tough assignment. Did you have a tough time convincing your family that you really were down there serving the country and working your little butt off? Was that kind of how it worked?
Actually, it was pretty easy because
they were all down visiting you. Is that the whole deal, John?
Yeah, they all show up.
Is that it? So what made you decide that you think you want to run for alderman? How long have you been here? You've been here about a year or so?
Actually, I've been here about 2 years, Anita, and the reason I decided to run for Frederick is because I think that I can make a difference for the people of Frederick. When my wife and I chose Frederick as a place we wanted to make and call home, I started following the political agenda going on at City Hall and was attending all the meetings of not only the workshops of the mayor and aldermen, but the regular meetings and the Historic Preservation Commission meetings and the Planning Commission meetings. And I thought that I had a
punishment, aren't you? There?
I was. Sometimes I wonder about myself. But basically, I was just trying to get a feel for what goes on within the city that we chose to live in, and it's also a great way to meet people. Mm-hmm. And in that process, I decided that I had a contribution to make. I had the time, I have the temperament, and I have the skills. I think to help the people of Frederick, or to at least offer some help for the people of Frederick. And I feel that it's my civic duty, if I'm going to be here and I have the time and I have the skills, to offer that to the residents of Frederick. And it's their civic duty to either accept my offer or reject my offer on September 15th.
What skills do you think that you have? I mean, is it the fact that you're a trainer, or that you're able to pull people together? Or?
Exactly. There's absolutely nothing you do in the military by yourself. There are no individual players. Everything is about building a team. So I think I have those leadership skills to build the teams and get the consensus necessary to move a project or an idea forward, rather than some of the headbutting that I see going on sometimes at City Hall now.
What are some of the issues that you think are important to the residents of the city?
Well, we have some very serious issues right now. One is property tax. All of the doors I knock on, people are really concerned about their property tax, as am I, by the way, being a new resident of the Historic District.
Oh, is that where you live? So the HPC is a part of your concern, too, I would think?
They are, but, I don't consider the HPC a bad thing. Mm-hmm. We could move to that subject. I think the HPC is absolutely the reason we have what we have in Frederick. We have one of the most unique historic districts anywhere in the U.S., and I've traveled to a lot of cities. What we may have to do is make some tweaks to make the HPC more favorable to entice businesses and to make the residents feel like they have a voice that's being heard. As you know, there's been some publicity lately about the HPC.
Think controversy might be a better word, huh?
I was being nice.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's your half hour. Didn't mean to intrude.
But I don't think the HPC is something we should do away with. I think the HPC is absolutely essential. It just may need a little peaking and tweaking to get it on a track that's favorable for most residents.
Well, it's my understanding the HPC operates under federal law and state law, and so what tweaking could you do? Maybe enlighten me a little bit. What you could tweak to make it more user friendly, or
I think we could make it more user friendly. Absolutely, I've attended the HPC meetings, and I've watched the way people have to stand at a podium and look up to the HPC. If it was up to me, I would level that room and put everyone at the same level. And I think the residents wouldn't feel so intimidated. I've also seen decisions that I consider arbitrary and not in compliance with their stated guidelines. I understand that the difficulty in sometimes applying rules. When you're trying to apply a set of rules as a board or a commission, it's not always an easy thing to go down the middle of the road, and sometimes you do wander one way or the other. I think that with the number of complaints we've had lately, that there's obviously something amiss in the way the HPC is doing business. Now, to back up to what you said about the HPC being under federal and state guidelines, you're absolutely correct. But we, the city of Frederick, and our aldermen are the ones that approve the guidelines that the HPC use. Now, there are certain requirements that come down from the state, but I think we could change some of those requirements.
Because what comes from the state, I think, is indigenous just to the city of Frederick, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I do think that's where I'm talking about making the tweaks.
Okay.
I think we can make tweaks there that...
I go into the delegation to say, gee, could you change the enabling legislation to do blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. What are some of the other concerns that you may have about the city that might have interested you into running?
Well, my biggest concern is sustainability. And I have to say that we have moved to single-stream recycling, which is a real big help, but we don't know how much help yet because the numbers aren't being made available to the public, so we can't evaluate what we were doing before single-stream and what we're doing now.
But that's a county program.
It is a program, but it affects the residents of the city of Frederick also. And we pay for that, actually, in our property tax, which we all pay.
Yeah, I know. We're all city residents.
It does affect us as residents because it costs less to recycle than it does to...
But no, recycling doesn't pay for itself. But one of the things that's always bothered me about the city of Frederick, and they've talked about it periodically, about changing it, and they've never, to my knowledge, really gotten it on the table, is that, like, if you have a large apartment building or a condo building, then that's considered to be commercial. I think I have this. That's considered to be commercial, and they don't pick up for commercial property, even though it's nothing but residential, which seems counterproductive to me because, I mean, that's certainly where you would get tons of recyclables.
Yeah. The county commissioners have assured me that they're going to be moving to a commercial recycling program and starting a pilot program soon. I don't know when. The other side of that coin is that in the city of Frederick, we have no recycling for businesses. We have no composting programs, which 35% of our waste stream is compostable material. So I think that we need to be looking at that. We also, in the city of Frederick, could have some event recycling, like Alive at 5 and First Saturday. We have no recycling at those events. And we
also in downtown, I went to my first and only probably first Saturday night thing when they had the dogs and all that. Little did I know. So there's no recycling in an event like that. They just said, throw all of your stuff in a sanitary trash can.
Exactly.
Well, that's kind of counterproductive. You need to fix that if you're elected alderman. You need to work on that.
It's high on my list.
Okay. What are some of that? What about tax equity? I know that was a topic that was pretty controversial there. And then, of course, we've got these annexations that have been going on. Not that you can do anything to affect them at this point in time. But
well, let's tackle the tax equity first.
Okay. All right. Tell me about your tax equity.
Well, just for the listeners out there, tax equity is, of course, the difference we pay in our county property tax rate for services that we either duplicate or don't receive from the county. So there's two ways, and this is state-enabled legislation for the county to provide us a tax equity. But it's up to the county and the municipalities to determine the formula that you use to compute that. And then after you come up with a number or a bottom line, there is no enabling legislation that requires the county to pay that amount, which we saw this year, by the way.